Well, we all know or should know by now that we're in the great transformation. You know, the old way's falling away, the new way is coming. The incumbents, or those who are in power, they want to stay in power, so they're keeping us distracted from what's really going on. But I found a video that'll explain a lot to us, so let's start watching it now.
At this unique juncture in history, we can recognize not just the staggering dangers of collapse, but also the incredible possibilities for breakthrough. Here on the edge of chaos, it feels terrifying. But it's precisely here, with our world pushed out of equilibrium, where change happens. Unlike our ancestors, we can see the paths diverging up ahead. For the first time in history, we have a choice. If we choose wisely, we can chart a new course to a new age.
How can I go forward if I don't know which way I'm facing? You know, while we're all distracted with this political theater, you know, all the horror and the tragedies and the terrible things they're telling us, you know, meanwhile, we're faced with the greatest transformation ever. So we'll just start with where we're at.
Our straight-line tunnel vision of incremental change blinds us to the danger that the very assets behind the modern world's ascent are now its greatest liabilities. The industrial models of thought that propelled us to the pinnacle of the age of extraction cannot understand the emerging world and its possibilities. Our social, cultural, political, and economic institutions are unable to manage it. The hubristic belief that things will continue indefinitely, with just a few nudges and tweaks, condemns us to repeat the mistakes of our ancestors.
Yes, linear thinking and incremental change has led us to fail to see that what propelled us into this old paradigm and has brought us to the edge of collapse are very things that are detriments now. You know, fossil fuels and the top-down governments, and they can't handle the changes happening so fast, and it's putting us in a really the same situation that all empires go through. So let's take a look at what that is.
They had no choice. Collapse was inevitable, as vested interest and dogma led them to stubbornly cling to their prevailing systems. As death spirals kicked off, elite insiders clung to power, while scapegoating outsiders. Their short-sightedness led them to collapse into horrifying dark ages of poverty and violence. This pattern is eerily familiar to the one we are repeating today. The growth imperative that pushed our ancestor civilizations to the precipice is driving the global industrial order to the limits of its expansion. The predictable symptoms of this moment include instability, fragility, polarization, decreasing adaptability, increasing inequality, racism, the erection of walls, and the election of authoritarian leaders.
Well, that's a good description of where the elite incumbents have taken us and where they're taking us now. And so let's take a look at why.
Our political leaders are like doctors, treating only the most obvious symptoms of an insidious disease. They fail to see that the very technologies that can help us break through to the age of freedom are simultaneously accelerating the inevitable collapse of the old order. If we cling to the comfort of the old ways, papering over deepening cracks with Band-Aids, the old industrial system could disintegrate before the new production system emerges. Millions employed in industrial agriculture, fossil fuels, and petrol-car manufacturing would lose their jobs with no employment, the instability fueling fear-driven politics. We would collapse before we break through, sending civilizations crashing down.
The corrupt politicians are incapable of seeing the path forward, how we go to abundance and thriving, and all they see is how these changes are destroying their economy, their fossil fuels, their war machine. You know, they're just there, and they're doing everything they can to hold on to that power, and they're keeping us distracted by thinking that somehow politics is the answer, and meanwhile, On the other hand, look what's happening.
But if we fail to rethink our organizing system, we could crash up, entering a dystopia owned and controlled by a tiny number of tech conglomerates, nation-states, and elites. Fed and sheltered like caged lions, astronomical inequality, and authoritarian overreach, we could become trapped in the new creation-based system.
So while we're worried about this election between who cares, meanwhile, we're faced with these greedy people taking us, to extinction on one hand, and to a dystopian control on the other. And I mean, it's like they do not want us to see that there is a way out.
We need to recognize the responsibilities that lie ahead. To enter the age of freedom, we need to adopt a human-centric, networked, decentralized way of understanding the world, with its new dynamics of distributed power and ownership in societies. The age of freedom is tantalizingly close, but powerful forces stand in the way.